So I turned 30 and all I got was the Elektron Syntakt. But I really did turn 30 this weekend, which is wild. My voice is a little shot because I went to some outdoor bars with my friends and my sister and I had a really good time. And the real major cherry on top of this whole weekend has been that the Elektron Syntakt showed up courtesy of Perfect Circuit. They sent this over in exchange for ads like this. Perfect Circuit is a great place to buy synths, pro audio gear, effects. They ship worldwide and you can use my link below, which is pinned in a comment and in the description, to help the channel by buying gear at no additional cost to you. I've used them as a customer for years and it is so awesome to partner with them to make some videos about the Elektron Syntakt, including this one. So this is definitely a first impressions type video because I've only had this for a few days. I am not entirely new to the Elektron workflow. I have used a Digitone pretty extensively back in 2020 and the Digitakt for a very small window of time in 2020. At the time I did not understand what that device was and I wish I hadn't sold it, but I did. Same with the Digitone. That was back in my era of buying and selling all the time, which I try not to do as much now. One of the benefits of my channel being where it is, which is something I'm so grateful for and is only possible because of viewers like you who are tuning in, liking, subscribing, supporting the Patreon, such as these fine folks. Because of amazing viewers like you, I am now able to get gear like this and try it out. And so I am trying to be very considerate about the gear I bring into my studio because it does take time to learn it. And I want to make sure I can understand this stuff and make videos of value for you. In the very small chance this is the first Syntakt video you've ever seen, it's worth noting that this is a 12-track drum computer and synthesizer, as it says on the top of the screen. It has a combination of digital voices and analog voices, and they can make a huge variety of sounds. These top 8 slots here, these are digital, and these bottom 4, they're analog. The 12th one here can only be used for cymbal sounds. Cymbal, not simple. But everything else has a lot of variety. This doesn't have to be a kick. This doesn't have to be a snare. This doesn't have to be that dual VCO. They can be kind of whatever you want, and there's so many amazing machines and sounds in here. I recommend checking out Elektron's official videos or someone like Loop Hop, Ricky Tinez. There are a bunch of amazing creators who have already made videos with this device going way more in depth on the granular technical details. I just want to talk about why I got this thing and what's so exciting about it for me. So I have only been using it for a few days, but it has been pretty easy to pick up. And for the most part, it's really impressive to me. I want to show you the first thing I've made on it that I think is actually decent, but I also want to caveat that I am still basically a beginner on this device. Even though I used the Digitone in the past, I am not an expert with sequencing and I'm not an expert with creating songs yet, and I never used the song mode because that didn't exist back when I was using the Digitone. But I am still happy with this little pattern thing I made, so I want to show you some music I made really quick. Something I really like about the Syntakt, and you hopefully heard it there, is it just feels kind of modern in a way that I think, other people have talked about this, Andrew Wong in his video and a few others. It's really possible to get some really cool and unique sounds out of this. Like this is a preset that was already made on here, as well as this. There's just so much sound design and so much you can do here. You can hear that one panning around us. Ah, man. The first few projects I made, I didn't even really remember how to go into the sound library, and so I was just tweaking and loading machines from scratch, which is a cool way to learn them, and I have a lot to learn when it comes to sound design on here. But I think the thing that really blows my mind, along with it just sounding so modern, is that it just feels really possible to make whole songs on here. Other people have talked about this, but the Digatone, it had 4 tracks and it shared 8 voices, and it's an amazing device, and it has some advantages over the Syntakt, but it did have a limitation as far as how much you could get out of it in a single project or, out of the single device. A lot of people pair the Digatone with the Digitakt because that gives you a huge plethora of sound options and additional tracks, and I am actually very tempted to get a Digitakt to pair it with a Syntakt because you don't have sampling on here, which I think is fine. It does so much. It doesn't also need sampling. But the other thing I'm really excited to do is pair it with the Poly Tracker. I think that's the more sane option because I already own this. I think pairing it with the Poly Tracker so I have sample ability, and then maybe even bringing in the Arturia Mini Freak would be a really potent live setup with a bunch of gear that I would actually probably trust to be very sturdy and capable in a live scenario. There's so much I'm excited about with the Syntakt. There's so much for me to learn, and I love that process of having a new piece of gear and having something to learn. Every now and then I will get comments on my videos saying, hey, just focus on one piece of gear and get really good at it. And I think all of the people who comment like that are coming from a really good, genuine place, which is that if you want to be an expert or a master, and if you're really focusing on the craft of music production, it does behoove you to really spend time and focus in and become a master of the gear. But what I will say is if you look at YouTube channels that focus on gear, and if you look at my channel, if you only make one type of video about one type of gear, it puts you in a pigeonhole that makes it hard to get a whole audience. And I personally actually really love trying new gear and talking about new gear. To me, user interfaces are a very fascinating form of human language, and seeing how the design of everyday things and the design of groove boxes and music machines and synths and all of these, I just have a huge fascination for learning how to use them, learning how to understand the thoughts and decisions behind the making of these machines, and then becoming someone who can understand how to use them and showcase them to people is something I really enjoy. So I totally understand if you're like, whoa, this guy has a lot of gear. It's fair, and I do think there's a huge argument to be made for focusing on a single piece of gear and getting good at it. But at the same time, for every, master violinist or whatever, there are jack of all trades composers who use MIDI to create entire orchestras and soundtrack movies. I don't think either person is doing something wrong. They're just different ways of being. So anyway, thank you so much to my Patreon patrons. Thank you so much to you for watching. None of this would be possible without my viewers and without the people who take the time to watch these videos. Stay tuned for way more in-depth videos about this. Thank you again to Perfect Circuit, and do consider using those links below if you are already interested in gear and you want to help the channel. Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Bye.